What's up, guys? Welcome to today's video where we're gonna make a DIY kayak crate for kayak fishing. All right, so in today's video, we're gonna be making a pretty straightforward DIY kayak crate, kind of on the cheap. So I accepted a challenge from my good buddy Darren Wendell where he's gotten some really good, what I call high-end DIY crate videos, to kind of redo the crate video where we have a $30 budget and we get as creative as we can, and then you guys are going to vote on who's got the best crate. And if you comment on this video, you have a chance to win a Yak Attack Black Pack Pro. So speaking of the Yak Attack Black Pack Pro, I am very blessed with the best, and in the best, in my opinion, for tackle management gear organization is the Black Pack Pro. You've got this short stack on the top with the additional storage and management. You've got all the different attachments. You've got the rod tubes that are called tether tubes that have the tether built into them, and just lots of abilities to customize this thing with the grid lock system. All the hinges are there, mounts for cameras. In other words, that's about as advanced as it gets. What we're doing today is we're taking it back old school. So old school that this is the exact crate build that I used in my kayak when I was on the cover of this book that I wrote back in 2008 that was published in 2009. And the only difference in what we're doing today is that the rods were mounted on the front of this crate, and this is using one of those triple rod holders that you get at the store they kind of bolted to the front of it. And I actually kind of went more to the side mount like this now so that I can reach through the middle to get into my crate. And back in the day, you could just swing your feet sideways and just reach around your rods. Now you can't do that as easily because you don't sit on the boat anymore. You sit on the seat, which is on the boat. So anyway, just letting you guys know that we're going to give away a couple of these books by answering questions in the comment section. And then at the end of the video, if you comment, actually you don't have to wait till the end of the video. If you comment in the comment section, you got a chance to win a Yak Attack Black Pack Pro. Or if you go over to Darren Wendell Fishing's community page, there's a vote tab. So we're going to give away a black pack over there and give away a black pack here. And again, I'm not so much worried about who wins or loses. I'm sure that Darren's going to do sexy slow-mo cutaways using his saw, his wife's saw, because his wife taught him how to use tools because she's got a woodworking channel. We're not doing that here. We're doing this as basically as we can. I think the only 3 tools we're going to need is a pair of diagonal cutters. And honestly, if you don't have diagonal cutters, you can get away with the old-timer pocket knife that your papa gave you, or maybe he didn't give it to you, and you can still borrow it. A hacksaw and a drill. And the drill is even not 100% necessary, and I'll show you guys that along the way. One of the things we're going to do in my build is we're going to talk about how I would build it, and we're going to talk about all the different things you could do to make it even better. So I picked up 2 of these office crates at Walmart for $5.97. Not counting both of those towards my build, because what I am going to say is if you wanted to get really fancy with this, these stack. So what you could do is cut this crate in half and then make the top kind of like the short stack by just drilling some holes in here, zip tying through it, and it would make a hinge similar to the short stack on top. And then you would just need to put some bungee lacing back and forth across the top. The other thing you could do is you could cut this off right about so, and because they stack, you could set the other crate on top of it, and it would serve as a riser to get your crate up out of the water. I'm going to show you a couple of cheap, inexpensive ways to accomplish all of that, and we're not going to do the double crate build today, so we're going to take $5.97 off the build, and we're going to say we're doing $5.97. What I do recommend, and I've been using these for years, and I actually still use these for battery holders and other stuff to organize gear inside my kayak for anything that I don't want to end up sliding to the back of the boat. The cool thing about these is they are modular, so you can take them apart, but they got these little male-female nipples on them. You can punch them together, and they fit right inside of your crate. What's cool about that is you could drill a couple of holes in them, put a piece of bungee through there, make yourself a little handle that sticks up, and then all you got to do is reach in the back, grab that, pick it up. The other thing you can do is you can put one crate on the bottom, and just like your crate, these stack. So you've got stackable gear organization, but you're not going to be able to close the crate. So if you've got an open crate, you can actually put your lures in there. What's really cool about these dudes right here is they also are almost like they were tailor-made to fit soft plastics and to fit tackle. So they actually fit tackle really well, and they even fit these little Plano boxes like perfectly. So you can put 3 sideways, or you can put 2 diagonal and then something else in the corner. I usually put a couple soft plastics in there to kind of wedge it, and then put one of the tackle boxes, and it works out perfect. Put the primary stuff on top, put the secondary stuff on bottom, or like I said, for the purpose of this build, you can actually lock them together. Now, they have these little nipples that stick out for locking them together. So if you're going to put them together and have it pop out, you're going to need to cut a couple of those off so that they don't catch on the side of the crate. So before the build, I did that because I prefer to actually use them this way. Lock it together, and then they want to fit down inside there, so you have to cut off these nipples on the bottom to keep it from catching. We're going to zip tie this together. We're going to make it one piece, and then we'll make that part of our organization. So matter of fact, I'm just going to go ahead and knock that out now. All you literally have to do is take your drill and just pop a hole through here. Not like that. You actually have to tighten it down first so that your drill bit will come out. And you have to have this set on something other than hammer. All right, we're gonna put a second hole in here. Not gonna get my finger in it. Works better in forward. Just like so. And again, we're not counting our zip ties towards our budget, because part of the rules were if you already had it, it don't count. So we're just going to take a couple of these zip ties, pop them in here just like so. And one of the cool things about these zip ties with plastic is you can make hinges out of them, you can secure it, you can attach things to it, but you want to make sure that wherever your little tag end is going to be, you're not reaching there. So if you want to get a little close up of that, when you zip tie that together, it closes the top off, and then you just want to take your diagonal cutters and then basically use the flush side, cut that off smooth. I'll show you a little tip at the end with a lighter where you can burn these to make sure that that little diagonal piece isn't going to sit there and take your skin off of your forearm. So that's our little tackle management modular system. It actually fits great under the seat of the kayak in a lot of cases. You can build one of these to put inside your hatch. It's really a cool little modular system. And again, one of the other things that I like to do is take some bungee, take the bungee and just double it up, run it through there like so, and the stiffness of the bungee kind of makes it stick up so you can grab it and pick it up. Let me grab that thing before I finish the rest of the way off. You can also use these Omni hooks from, actually we'll talk about this later. This is a way you can secure the entire bag to get the box in your boat, but won't necessarily need to talk about that. Real simple stuff. Again, you could put bungee across the top of it. I'm gonna keep it simple for this build. You just drop it in there. You got tackle management. Makes it real easy, nothing fancy. The cost of this build is even gonna cover your actual tackle management. Like not just the actual tackle management from the standpoint of the box that manages your boxes, but if you really wanted to get away with it, you could count this as your box too. So we're gonna get rid of these for just a second. We'll come back to those in a minute. Now, one thing you could also do before you get into what I'm about to do is you can actually buy tether tubes like this in pairs from Yak Attack. So you could opt for a really cheap crate and you could mount your Yak Attack tether tubes to it. You'd have to play around with it, or you'd have to get your spacing right to where it sets up. But the tether tubes screwed in place would actually, you know, spruce this thing up nicely. That's gonna bust our budget for the purpose of this, and it's a DIY thing. So again, if you wanna use the tether tubes, be a great addition to it. There's a couple different ways you can go about this, and depending on how you orient your crate is gonna be how you wanna lay it out. So I'm gonna walk through kind of all the different scenarios. In the basic old school, take it back to the basics, you can actually just take your rod holder, throw a zip tie on, or your PVC pipe, throw a zip tie on there, zip tie it in place, put it in all four corners. You've got a clean, easy way to manage your gear. You want this about 1/4 of an inch taller than the top of the crate so that your reel handle doesn't catch on it. Now, the downside to putting your 4 rod holders on the inside of your crate is, 1, you lose internal storage in your crate, and 2, your reel handles kind of swing in the way, so when it comes to taking our little gear management in there, out of there, it actually doesn't work. So what we're going to do is we're going to opt to go on the outside. A couple ways you can do this. Now, I had all this PVC pipe laying around, so I'm going to do this whole thing out of PVC, and then we're going to splotch it up, juice it up with a little Rust-Oleum flat black to make it look the part. So again, there's a couple different ways you can do this. First thing you can do is you can take a PVC pipe and you can cut it off exactly the length of your crate right here. And then what you can do is just zip tie this in place. And what that's going to do is that's going to serve as your spacer to hold your rods off to where you don't have it screwed directly to the crate to where your rear handles get caught or they block the boat. Now, that's one way to do it. And that is probably the smartest, most viable way to do it. But we're going to set these aside because we're going to use these for something else in just a second. And I'm going to show you kind of a way that I came up with to do this when I was traveling. Had to make a crate in a pinch, and it has worked really well ever since then. So you're going to take a piece of PVC pipe, and I'm going to give you the rule of thumb. Make it about as wide as the PVC pipe is wide, or make it as long as the PVC pipe is wide. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to go to your first hole right here, and you're going to take your zip tie. You're going to go through the first hole, and you're just going to zip tie this PVC pipe onto the crate. Now, I'm going to put my tag in on the outside so that if I reach into my crate, I don't have that little tag in on there sticking out that's going to zap me later on. I'm going to cut these off as we go, just so I don't have as many to clip off when we get to the end. And then what we're going to do is we're going to simply do that one more time right here with a second zip tie, like so. I like to alternate my zip ties so that it just kind of helps keep things tighter, you know, just like so. And again, we're going to cut the tab off. So what we've accomplished here is we've basically made ourselves a spacer. Now, there's a lot of things you can do right here. You can drill holes, you can get fancy, and you can line the holes up, put a big hole on the outside, a small hole on the inside, put a nut on the back side. You can get super fancy with it. For the purpose of this, I'm showing you guys how to make a very low budget, easy to use, throw and go crate, starter crate, or it could be your forever crate. So what you're going to do is you're just going to basically zip tie your PVC pipe onto your spacers, like so. When you're done, you want to put your crate on a flat surface like so. You want to kind of line that up, make sure it's ready to go, and then just crank down your zip ties the rest of the way. I'm going to cut off my tag ends, and then I am going to repeat this process 3 more times, for a total of 4 rod holders on this build, which is going to build me out a nice standoff. It's going to build me out the ability for my reel handles to not end up on the inside of the boat. And if you really wanted to, you could omit the bottom version, zip tie it straight to the ring. You could tilt your rod holders out just a bit, which is another great option. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to rip through this process of installing the other 3, and then I'll be back with you for advice and guidance on some of the other rigging opportunities for making this crate yours. Look, I'm going to walk you through pretty much the finishing up phase of this little project build. I asked Austin to find a stunt rod while I was finishing up those other 3 rod holders, and he had to go like stick it in, because this is an X-Pride that was like my favorite X-Pride, and I had it for like a good minute, and I caught some really good fish on it. And then one day there was this thing where an angler got close to me, and I was going this way and they were going that way, and the tip of the X-Pride B lost to the kayak. So I said, go get me a dummy rod. I didn't say go get the one rod out of all of them that, anyway, I owe you. So this is our stunt rod to show you kind of how this works. Now, there's a couple things you can do here, okay? First and foremost, you're going to elevate your crate so that your rods sit down in here a little bit lower. You could take a drill, use an oversized bit, and cut a notch on one side. You could take a hacksaw and cut it off. If you're going to put notches in it, I got a real simple technique for you. Real simple. What you do, take a piece of PVC pipe, and you're going to put a piece of masking tape right where you're going to make your cut, okay? You're going to then take a drill, an oversized bit, like a big bit, and you're going to drill a hole in it, or a spade bit. Then you're going to cut it in half right where that line is at. What's going to happen is half of the hole makes the cradle for your rod to sit in, and you don't got to spend a bunch of time with heat guns and the bottle of like a wine bottle. So I'm going to try to be a little bit prophetic here, and I'm going to say that Darren went so far as to like flare his out and show you how to cut the notch in there perfectly so that you end up with this kind of perfect opening like a tether tube. So I'm going to tell you there's two easy ways to do this. One, use a 1-inch spade bit, cut it in half, cut a hole in there, cut it in half, and then you're going to have a perfect notch, because you just need something for either the handle of the spinning reel or the trigger of your casting rod to catch on. The other thing that you can do is if you have a heat gun, you can actually heat up the mouth of your PVC, and you can tighten it up a little bit in a vise, or you can just kind of press on it and it'll elongate it. Elongating it will also make it easier to get the rod in, and what it'll also do is the reel will orient in the direction of the elongation. So it's kind of a little easy hack. So again, you can cut the notch. You can take your, actually this is an example of it. I did this on another project where I drilled the hole and then I cut it in half at the hole, so I had a notch already built in on both sides. But just do that with a bigger spade bit, and you're gonna have like a nice little cradle right there. Take a heat gun, heat it up, soften it up, maybe put your wine bottle on there and flare the head, or a whiskey bottle or something. And that's gonna be a really nice way to make your rod holder a little easier to use. But listen, we're talking about a real simple rudimentary crate. You're not putting 6, 8, 10 rods on here. You could put an additional rod holder on each side and still be plenty fine. So you could put 6, you could put, 2 or 3 across the back. But for the purpose of this build, we ended up with 4 nicely balanced rod holders. Now, I will tell you the happy accident that happened when I came up with this concept, probably, golly, at this point, 15, 20 years ago, is that if you're river fishing, you end up with this nice kind of happy accident of horizontal rod storage built in like so. So you're going to take less rods, but you have the ability to put your reel in that gap, put your rod handle through here, and then the trigger or the spinning rod actually locks it in place. So if a tree grabs it as you're going down the river, it actually is secure. Now, one other thing that you can do to make all of your rods and reels secure is, we're going to visualize a reel being right here, is you can take bungee, and you can do the same thing that I did with the crate that I'll show you in just a second. You could drill a hole pretty much right here on each side, run yourself a stretch of bungee around just like so. Actually, you know what? We're going to do it, because that is a very, very valuable thing that I used to do to this style of crate. So we're just going to go ahead and do it. And I'm going to show you how easy it is. So what you're going to do is you're going to put your bungee through there. You're going to pull it up. You're going to put a nice little lock knot on the back side like so. You're going to pull that up and kind of cinch it down a little bit. You're going to bring this around, and then you're going to pull it through just like so. Just like so. And then you're just going to kind of pull a little bit of slack, because you still want some slack in it. You're going to go like so. You're going to tie your knot like that. You're going to pull that slack out. You're going to take your diagonal cutters. You're going to cut that off. Then you're going to get your torch, flame, or heat producing device. Just going to go like that right there. Get it burning. Lick your finger. Same thing over here. Get it burning. Lick your finger. Flatten that tip out just like that. Now what you got is you've got the world's best rod, reel, lure line, rod, reel, lure retention system. Just imagine you got your reel right here. You just actually grab that bungee with one hand and hook it up over your reels. What's that?
Explain yourself.
So this
your hard-earned lesson and teach them.
This dude really don't want to get paid this month. All right. So not only did he bring me one of the rods that I broke the week before this particular incident, but in this particular incident, I drove over 4 rods and reels. And when I say drove over them, I was getting out of the boat ramp. I ran up to my truck and I carried my rods and I set them on the passenger side, leaned up against the mirror, where I always put them to be safe so that the door doesn't close on them. But then some jackleg pulled in and was like in a hurt, kind of pulled right up into the middle of everybody and was hurting everybody up. So I jumped in my truck to try to be courteous to move my truck out of the way. I backed up. My rods fell forward. I pulled forward, drove over 4 really nice rods. I drove over an XLS, SLX. I drove over a Corrado. Oh shoot. A Chronarch and another Chronarch and a Corrado. And they're all, as you can see, this one has no frame anymore. They're all in various forms of, you can see there are gravel marks right there. This one won't even reel anymore. So, you know what? Good call on you there, young man. We will use this as a stunt rod and reel. And when we go do our Flip the Kayak video update, we've got stunt reels and rods to use so that we don't risk our high-end stuff.
Lesson of the day is don't get in a rush.
So the lesson of the day is have a system, have a procedure, and always follow that procedure. Have a place for everything and everything in its place, and you won't randomly set stuff down and then inadvertently drive over it. So in this scenario here, we're going to have the rod where it is sticking up, and there's a couple of options. I can actually just pull this bungee up, hook it over the reel handle, or I can pull the bungee up and hook it over the reel, and then if I've got 2 reels, I can do the same thing. So what's really cool about this system is it's one tether to lock down both of your rods. And it's one-handed operation. You reach out behind you, you grab it with your finger, you just pull it up and over the reel, and you're done. And then same thing with the other one. And if you reach back, you can actually reach back, run your finger under it, pull it over it, grab your rod, and kind of all one fell swoop. What I like about this system was the happy accident when I went with these spacers, because I only had a little bit of PVC, so I had to make it last, and I couldn't end up doing the long way where I drilled the holes in it. So I ended up doing it this way. And then the happy accident was the horizontal rod storage system for the jerry-rigged low-budget kayak was born. Now, 1 or 2 little quick tips that I can give you for this setup is, if you want it to be a little bit more secure and a little bit more stable, you can drill holes in it and zip tie the pipe to the side pieces. You can take a heat gun and smash these rings to where they're a little bit elongated and smash the pipe where it's a little bit elongated. So then it'll be flat spot against flat spot. Probably the easiest low-tech way to do it is to take a little bit of electrical tape and wrap it with electrical tape, basically right where the they come together, or you can go after the fact and kind of go over it again by doing a figure 8 behind it, up over the top of it. But again, I'm going to just tell you, I got thousands of miles on this setup like this with no problems whatsoever. And so we're going to do the 4 rod holders just like that. We're into this thing for $5.97. Even if we bought the PVC pipe, we're into it for $3 and a bunch of zip ties, but we still got most of the crate left. So $5.97, $1.64, $1.64, like $3 and some change. So we're into this thing for 12, 15 bucks, okay? Labor, one little quick thing I like to do to these crates is I like to put a bungee on each side so that if I put it somewhere else, I can use these to cinch it down in my tank well, just like so. When I'm using it and I'm trying to grab it on the go, I can actually bring these forward. I can pull these together and zip tie it, so I've got a handle that kind of meets in the middle, and it makes it to where I gotta force my gear out of the way. You could put an eyelet over the top of that. Anyway, there's a lot of different ways that you can manage this, but you end up with a really nice, easy to use tackle management storage system that's actually designed to fit inside these crates. So you're probably asking yourself, like, why did I go with this type of crate versus like a crate, like a milk crate? Well, the reason for that is back in the day when kayak fishing was first starting to get popular, it got to the point where people were jacking so many milk crates from 7-Elevens and Circle K's and seafood markets and milk places that they started locking them up. They started putting surveillance cameras up. And there was actually a guy in New Jersey that got prosecuted for stealing a milk crate because he was simply using it for a kayak crate. Now, I'll just tell you that if you go grab a milk crate that's not yours, it is stealing, but you can actually buy milk crates now for kayak fishing. But this is still cheaper. It lasts plenty long. Last but not least, when it comes to securing it to your boat, there's a lot of different ways you could do it. You could actually just tie a piece of bungee through here, make a loop out of it, and then you can pull it down and just hook it on a tie down on your boat. What I really like to do with this setup is use these Omni hooks from Yak Attack, from BONAFIDE. Because I have a metric ton of these, because I always take them off when I'm connecting my black pack to my boat more securely. But these actually hook right into these holes. You can take that bungee and cinch it down, or you can untie your crate bungee, thread one of these on there, and then after you get your crate in there, you can pull this thing up and hook it, and then you can zigzag it around your rod holders. Or if you have crate bungee already built into your boat, you can just actually pick it up over and let it sit in one of these two grooves, and it's going to hold your crate down. Now, you notice here, when I put this rod in there, that the handle's longer than the reel, so it kind of sits there and spin. And you also notice that if this crate is sitting flat on its bottom, that you're probably going to have all your gear sitting in the bottom. So the next little tip is that you can take 2 pieces of PVC pipe, just like so, and you can zip tie them to the bottom. You could actually take 1 piece of PVC pipe and zip tie it to the bottom to where you've got a little bit of a kick up. To be honest with you, if I'm going to choose the way to do it, this is going to be my preferred method. I'm going to have a little bit of an angle to my rods. I'm going to kick my crate back a little bit. Now, I am taller. I've got long arms. If you're shorter, you might not want it kicked back like that. But that is going to be my preferred method. Now, one tip I will offer you is that I cut this for the purpose of doing the demonstration of if I was going to mount it on the side. What I would do if I was you is I would measure where I want this to be inside my tank well, inside the boat, and I would cut this pipe to that width so that when I put the crate in there, the actual bar that I'm using to elevate my kayak crate is giving me the lateral stability to where the crate's not shifting around. Now, if you're going to do double PVC, I would do the same thing. I would actually put a second piece of PVC under there, get it elevated up off the bottom, just like so. That's going to be practically bulletproof, and it's going to give your crate a lot of lateral stability because the PVC pipe is not shorter than the tank well. So basically decide where you want it, mark your PVC pipe right there, cut it. Might even have to cut it a little bit of an angle to fit the walls of the PVC pipe, but that's real simple and easy to do. But I'm going to tell you the old school way to do it, and I'm going to give you a tip while I'm doing it, okay? And that is, get yourself some trusty old pool noodles. Now, if you haven't used a pool noodle kayak fishing, you ain't been around kayak fishing very long, because back in the day, the pool noodle was kind of the holy grail to everything. Most people used them for net handles to make the nets float. They stuck them in their boat everywhere. But one of the great things about them is they make a great way to lift up your crate. You could put 1 piece under it. You could put 2 pieces under it. You can opt for a little bit bigger diameter stuff like this 6-inch here. And then you can basically really get your crate jacked up and out of the water like so. And these things are dirt cheap. They're like, I mean, dirt cheap. I think I saw the ones at Walmart when I was picking up this crate for this project for about $1. I think for this 6-foot, which I've cut a little bit off of it now, this 6-foot piece of 6-inch, I think I paid $3. These make great rod stagers. So in the back of my truck, I'll put this across a rope when I got a buddy because I don't have enough room in the rod box. I'll lay the rods down, and then I'll actually spread this pool noodle out, and it actually makes the perfect rod holder for the back of your truck. Put that over a piece of PVC pipe, put it across the back of your thing, and it's the perfect rod stager. Now, this is probably the preferred method for me if I'm going to use this type of old school, inexpensive crate. I'm going to put a piece of bungee around the bottom, bungee it in place, and that's going to give me all the lift that I need to get my gear up out of the water. Most likely what I would do is a bigger one in the front, smaller one in the back, so I get it lifted, but I still get that tilt. And then last but not least, I'm going to throw a plug out there for kayak fishing safety. If you have a kayak with a lot of gear, if you have a kayak with a lot of space inside, get you some of these pool noodles and stick them down the sides if you're not putting gear in there. If you ever have a situation where your boat fills up with water, it'll blow your mind how much water these things will displace. So 2 of these for about $3 on each side, so 24 bucks. You've got one of the best insurance policies ever. These are going to displace water if your boat ever starts to take on water, for one. So for you Hobie guys out there, you should get about 8 of these. I'm just kidding. Hobie guys, don't come at me, bro. But these are the best things for displacing water on the inside of your hull out there. And if you stick them over to the side, you never have to worry about that errant thing that you stick inside your kayak ending up in the back of the boat. For example, last week, I asked the dude standing behind the camera to take the kayak bass fishing boat down off of the sign out front because we're going to get it ready to be used again. And lo and behold, there was a, what was it? A Vanford and a Zodius reel, so about a $350 setup that when we tipped the boat the other way, it just comes sliding to the front, that had been about a $500 setup that had been mysteriously lost, and I looked for it forever but had no idea that it ended up in the back of my boat. So displacement, it works great for shoring up the inside of your boat. And then if you ever have a situation where you've got a battery, you should use a dry bag or a box. The other thing you could do is go to your hatch and the top of your battery, mark this with a fillet knife and cut it off, and then sit this on top of your battery so that way when you close your hatch, the pool noodle actually acts as a spacer to keep that battery in place. Because I don't know if you guys know this or not, but you can Google Tesla rainstorm or electric car flooding. Lithium does not have thermal runaway properties as bad as a lead acid battery does from heat, but they don't play nice with water. So if you ever get that lithium battery wet in a submerged boat, it's going to probably catch on fire. It's probably going to burn until it goes through your hull. So you want to mitigate that to the maximum extent possible. Today is not a safety video. Today is a how to build a crate video with a little modular removal system. Again, you could pick up a second crate. You could do a double stack. You could zip tie it here. You can make a lid for it by cutting this off right here. I'm sorry, right here, flipping it upside down, and then you would have like a solid top. There's just a lot of different orientations and a lot of different things you could do. I know I'm competing with Darren to win this whole thing for the best crate challenge, but mostly what we're trying to do is let everybody be a winner by having ideas on how to save money, how to get into kayak fishing, or how to say, you know what, that sounds like fun, but I'm going to skip straight to the Yak Attack Black Pack Pro. Seems like a cool option, and then you can truly make it yours. So these are all the options. Again, comment Chad's is better in the comment section below, and I'm going to pick a winner for one of those black packs. And hell, I'll pick a winner to give this dude away. You're just going to have to come get it in Alabama. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this thing outside, and we're going to pretty it up and make this thing not look so janky, and we'll have a pretty sweet do-it-yourself crate for less than 20 bucks.